Hi everyone. For the purpose of this sample, again, we're going to pretend that I created this poster so I can unpack it in a sample analysis. Okay, so I'm just going to start with the purpose. So the purpose, again, is another movie poster. And the intent is to get people to go and see this film. I think this film could be for people of all ages, so it's not really an intended audience. You can see up here it has all of the things that is won, so that people who like award winners, movies that win awards could go and see it. Again, we still have the author's name there and the title of the film. So going down, then we can see in the background here we see the church. Right? And so that kind of just reminds me of this dark foreboding thing that's always in his life. On page 43, he says, "They took me to St. Jerome's Indian residential school. I read once that there are holes in the universe that swallow all lights, all bodies. St. Jerome's took all the light from my world." So that kind of like dark presence in the background is definitely there, but it's in contrast to this pose of the boy on the front whose stick is raised in victory, in direct contrast to the darkness that is behind him. So this kind of represents the idea that hockey was his salvation or his escape. He's also on the cover. He's also alone. Right, and in chapter 12, he talks about how the other kids called him Xanagush and how he was very isolated because of his ability to speak English. So the isolation of the figure on the ice represents how alone he is. He also actually talks about this victory pose that he is doing here on the poster. It's a little bit different, but he says, "Naturally, the force of my shot," this is on page 62, "shot would take me to my one knee. I would raise my arms in the hushed light of the dorm. My mouth would be open with glee, and I would face the picture of Jesus hung there on the wall, my salvation coming instead through the wood and rubber and ice and the dream of a game. I'd stand there, arms held high in triumph, and I would not feel lonely or afraid, deserted or abandoned, but connected to something far bigger than myself." So although that scene takes place in the dormitory, you can see it kind of replicated here on the ice. And the fact that he is in front of the school kind of demonstrates that he was able to overcome the school through hockey. That hockey, like he says, becomes his ultimate salvation. You can also see here that when his stick is raised, that the cross is right at the top of his hand there. Again, though, the idea that hockey has become more important than the church. I guess that's kind of it, basically. We're looking at here is just that there's a couple of quotations about how hockey brings him escape, and that's really what the book is really about. Hockey, and about hockey offers him something that he doesn't have otherwise. So that's why I think that this movie poster works for kind of communicating the message about this movie.